Eric, can you give us a brief overview of the latest movements in Bitcoin price and what we should expect in the short-term future?
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin actually just did some pretty damn massive in the last 24 hours or so. We got a pretty massive breakout out of this $10,000 base right here. Really confirms this all as, well, for the bears, a little bit of a bear trap. But more importantly, this whole consolidation right here is now being resolved to the upside. To me, this looks like this wants to trend. And if we're going to start trending once again, I mean, this is the time to actually be paying attention as Bitcoin's, ready to move here. All higher time frames are kind of lining up with each other. This whole price action right here over the last 5-6 weeks, about 6 weeks, that was just a nice healthy pullback after a long trending move. A lot of people looking at this as a reversal. A lot of people looking at this as likely to come further south. No, this is actually now confirmed as a very healthy consolidation, a bullish consolidation, and now being resolved to the upside. Any sort of a closure on a higher time frame now above 11.5, which looks pretty damn likely, is going to incite the next leg most likely. I mean, we're seeing all higher time frames line up with each other, and this is usually when I like to make my best trades. Looking at the daily right here, we regained the yellow 21 exponential moving average. That's something that I was watching for on my channel. To kind of denote when the next trending move was going to emerge again. And then on a lower time frame, kind of the big hoopla with the last, couple weeks of price action. We had this death cross go on in the 4 hour. This is the green 50 exponential moving average and the purple 200 exponential moving average right here. I'd actually gone through and documented all the different cases of death crosses and golden crosses on the 4 hour in dynamic markets. And to the upside, these crosses typically last about 2 weeks. We're literally at the 2-week mark right now, and it got golden crossed. And more importantly, and something that I think the viewers might be a little more interested in hearing, is that in an overall upwards market, I've found that once you get the golden cross in the 4 hour, usually you get about a 100% increase in price action, literally a 2x within the next 100 to 120 days in an overall upwards market, which we certainly are in an overall upwards market right now. So I kind of put these two things together and say, hey, if we're resolving this consolidation to the upside, and we're seeing all of these momentum oscillators and moving averages start to switch around to bullish once again. We're not just looking to the upside, but we're trending right now. And I would be just looking generally for higher prices in Bitcoin. All higher time frames are bullish right here. Monthly had a phenomenal close just a few days ago at the turn of August, and to me, this is setting up to actually push this guy, and legitimately, before end of year, it's really not out of the question to be thinking about 20,000 now. I felt like a little bit of a moon boy saying that earlier, but this is really starting to shape up as something quite constructive, and I do feel quite strongly about that now.
So as I can see, you are pretty bullish about Bitcoin at the moment. So another prominent personality in the crypto space, Max Kaiser, said that Bitcoin will reach 15,000 this week, by the end of this week. Do you think it's a kind of realistic prediction?
I think that's a little bit more YouTube algo inspired prediction. While I'm bullish on Bitcoin, I mean, to say that Bitcoin's going to get to 15,000 this week, I think a little bit of a stretch. We've had a pretty nice move already, $1,000 up from this new weekly open. While I do think that Bitcoin does get to 15,000 overall, I'm not so certain I'd say this week. It's good to be a moon boy. It's good to have a healthy amount of optimism, but that's getting a little bit on the outlier there. Don't get me wrong. I do think that Bitcoin does work its way towards there, but really, when we're looking at these higher timeframes, as we just were, we need to kind of incite of like a 3 to 6 month time frame for those sorts of moves. Not this, probably not today or this week. But hey, anything's possible with Bitcoin. I would be looking there overall. So the bottom line is, we're kind of on the same page, but timeframes for that are definitely going to vary.
Talking about the cause behind the latest surge, some analysts say that the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates in the US and therefore causing inflation to rise might have caused the latest surge in Bitcoin price. Other people pointed at the latest turmoils in Hong Kong and the devaluation of the Chinese yuan as the main causes. What do you think? Are they the most possible reasons for Bitcoin to surge?
Yeah, there's really only one answer to this question, and there's one, and it's the same answer to why price action ever moves ever. Why did price action go up? We have an imbalance of buyers and sellers, and there's more buyers right now. That's the only reason why it went up, really. At the end of the day, it's these reasons that we kind of look for to justify these moves after the fact, which, just kind of assuage our need for logical follow through on these. But at the end of the day, does it actually matter what the reason is? Not really. We have more buyers and sellers, and as you saw in the charts, for the last 5-6 weeks, we had a pretty healthy consolidation. Is that like, what do people who say the inflation rising, or the Chinese yuan being responsible for this? What do they have to say about that? Right? Was it already priced in? No, of course not. Everything moves together, right? But we can only really look at price action to begin with. So what's the real cause of the move? More buyers and sellers. Do those sorts of economic events help out? Yes and no, because at the same point in time, each and every market participant's interpretation of those events can be subjective. We all kind of view reality through our own little lens. And while most people would probably look at that as a more positive thing, there's always going to be someone out there who's, who could find another, counterpoint to that. And these sorts of, these sorts of reasons that come out after the past, after the fact, are typically just there for the retailers to kind of feel like, oh, this makes sense. I was told just a few weeks ago that we're going to go down to 7,500 or 8,500 by so and so, and it didn't happen now. So I need a reason in order to feel right, and so that's where that kind of is born from. I'd say it's largely irrelevant. At the end of the day, gold, which I think Bitcoin is commonly compared to, though they're both commodities. Obviously, there's a lot of difference. Don't get me wrong, but just as like a working definition, both gold and Bitcoin kind of in the same sort of realm, if you want to put it like that. And you see them both rallying off this sort of event. So you do see that Bitcoin is acting as a commodity and kind of as potentially, we're starting to maybe see a little bit of it acting as a hedge against the traditional markets. Maybe as we do see traditional markets kind of turn down here and Bitcoin trending to the upside once again. So I'd say that's pretty damn powerful, but we need to see this continue more throughout the, just more throughout time in general, really. It's too early. We haven't really seen any major changes in behavior from both that would lead me to believe that this is a long-term trend just yet. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but as far as like actual evidence in front of our face, we don't have that. Now, of course, as Bitcoin, enthusiasts, we are kind of looking for that to happen, but as of right now, has it actually, gone down that way? Not necessarily.
All right. So talking about altcoins right now, one of the most weighted events of the week was the Litecoin halving. So a lot of traders were actually following this upcoming event because they were expecting some upwards movement in Litecoin price, which actually failed to materialize. Were you actually expecting this outcome for the Litecoin halving?
Yeah, the Litecoin halving is a very interesting thing. So the past history has shown that actually leading up to the halving date, usually there's a pretty massive price increase. We saw Litecoin go from about $20 to almost $150, I think it was. That was what that was. And then usually when the event actually happens, well, it's already priced in, right? So what is everyone? Well, what are the professionals doing? They're basically selling it to the retailers who are now buying into it right now, saying, "Oh, halving, good." And now they have liquidity for that. Realistically, down the road, it is a positive thing. The trend has been in the past that, longer term, yes, absolutely positive impact on price action, as you'd imagine, just because that is an actual fundamental type thing. But the actual date of, like literally the second of, well, as you're seeing right now, Litecoin's certainly not leading the market, kind of following more than anything. But I would expect that, over time, it does still benefit from that. It's just at the actual event, you get event psychology, you get people selling into it just because they know that there's going to be buyers for it. And that's typically how those things go. And that's, where that sort of saying, buy the rumor, sell the news, typically comes from.
Cointelegraph. Like, subscribe, and hodl.